Hey girl, hey.
Hi.
How are ya?
Great, doing great.
You're visiting me and I'm very thankful for that because I love it when you guys visit me in Orlando. I feel so loved.
You. We love it.
I know. Do you remember that time when I was in middle school?
Yes.
And I jumped off the bridge and I called you hysterically crying. Do you remember when that happened?
Yes.
Were you in California at that time?
Yeah, we were living in California.
Oh, yeah. So I jumped off the bridge in middle school.
It sounds pretty dramatic, but you jumped into a lake or some kind of stream, canal?
Sure.
Right?
Whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
What was crazy on my side is that at the time, I had these friends, and one of those friends brought their dad along with us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's the lifestyle in Broward that they wanted to do like yachting stuff or like the fishing things or whatever. And they told me like, oh yeah, we jump off this bridge all the time. Do you want to come with us? And then me, I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, you're my friends. I've never done that. Sounds like fun adrenaline. And then at the time I was wearing glasses and newly bought juicy couture. And I go ahead and I jump off the bridge and then I come out and I'm like, I can't see anything. I'm so blind. Like, you guys have no idea. I have a prescription right now of -7 and -650. So if I don't have my contacts or my glasses, I cannot function in life.
Right.
So when I called you and I was so scared, the reality is I'm scared of my mother. My mother is going to beat my ass.
And she would.
And she would. And
she would have, for sure.
And then when I called you, like, what did you think when that happened? Like,
well, first I remember getting the call and I just hear you like hyperventilating, crying.
It was terrible.
And so my first thought is like, okay, she's alive. How bad is it? Like, trying to go down the line of like what exactly is going on. And I'm like, are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. I'm like, all right, what? Take a deep breath. What happened? My mom's gonna kill me.
I said that. My mom's going to kill me.
Mom's going to kill me. I'm like, let's talk about what happened. So kind of I think you were what, 13 or 12?
I don't know. So this was middle school, and that's 7th grade. I had to have been 11 or 10.
No way. No.
I'm a young...
10 years old would be in 5th grade.
No,
right?
But I graduated high school when I was 17.
Okay.
Math. So I think I was, we'll just say 11.
Got it. So anyways, you're young. You call me. You let me know that you had the glasses fell in the canal or whatever.
I love those glasses,
and you had just gotten them too. So it's just like, all right, let's first calm down. You're safe. That's the most important thing. And I think I told you I'd talk to your mom. Like, let me talk to your mom.
Yeah, you did.
You know, and I remember calling her and telling her like, don't get mad.
Which, by the way, my aunt and my mom, they're polar opposites. You have one that's grateful for her. She has that strength where it's like undeniable, but
she's
very
like
direct.
A pit bull. She's a pit bull, and she's the kind of person where if somebody does something to you, you want somebody like that.
Definitely. Like, if I murder someone, my mom's gonna help me, like, cover up the body.
Yes. Like, who did it? I'm gonna cut you.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
But then for me, it's like, all right, let's not be so reactive, and then also understand that yes, it might have been irresponsible of you to jump without taking your glasses off. But
was that conversation fun to have with her? Like, what was your thought process? You were in California and you're like, I don't know how much I can help, but I'll try my best to talk to her.
I think Fanny and I have such history, your mom.
Yeah.
And, I love my sister. And I think knowing how to kind of stage things for her and allowing her to understand, like, hey, this is a perspective, like, this is going to upset you. And let's try to look at it from a different way. And like, how can I help the situation? I think I recommend that. I was just like, I'll help you pay for them if you need help, So just kind of like, please be nice to Marilyn. She really messed up, but she's also your child, and how can we teach her a lesson without totally like scarring this child?
No, seriously. I know. And I'm telling you guys, I was more scared of my mother than the cops for like right reasons. It's not like I was like brutally abused or anything, but I have a lot of love for her, but she knew how to set the record straight with me. Like, it's a Hispanic mom. So like,
she'll look at you a certain way, and you
I get scared. I'd be like, oh, she's gonna do something.
She'll pop off. But you have that part of her inside of you too.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that, like, I wish I would learn to be more like that, because I feel like it comes very natural to me to be like a people pleaser, and whereas she is very like, if she doesn't like something, she is unapologetically like, no, it's not okay. The way you're talking to me, or she can be step into her power in a way without thinking twice about it.
Yeah, you have that too, though. You just do it in a different form. Absolutely. And I've always
sometimes I wish
that.
I was like mean, not like meaner, but just like that I had a bit of a more of a backbone,
like confrontational.
Yeah, well, I guess to kind of put, been in circumstances when people were more, I guess, aggressive, and instead of me being so intimidated by it, to actually have that drive to want to be like, hey, this is not okay, like to fight, you know?
No, you definitely have that in you, though.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you have that
I feel
in
like
you.
it's something that I could work on.
If you want. I mean, you don't have to be how me and my mother are. We need people like you in the world to make this world go around. We need balance and everything. If the world was just like me and my mother,
it would be too much of a volcano. Yeah, it would be eruptions left and right. So.
No, we're very grateful for people that are not like us, and I'm very grateful for people that are like us, because we get to see the blends of worlds. But you know what I would say that helps you in your benefit is that, because you are your own person, I feel like what you do for work, you're a physical therapist, you have your own business.
Yes.
I feel like the people who work nonstop and they don't love what they do is so unfulfilling. And I just don't understand with people who do that. And I feel like you've witnessed, you know, individuals and businesses, different industries, and they've just had to walk away, or they stick in it. Like, but I don't understand with the people who stick in it.
Right. I think it's tough, you know, it's tough finding like a calling, and then having that calling hopefully be able to afford you a living that works for you, right? Your personality, the things that you enjoy. Like, do you have enough to pay your rent? Some jobs don't pay a lot. Like if you're an artist, you know, I've met many of like phenomenal artists that it's hard to make a living that way, and or other people that are physicians or doctors that absolutely hate their jobs, but it pays really well, you know? Yeah. So it's just like, all right, I invested all this time in school. I invested all this time in my career, and now I'm finding myself like out of balance. And how do you get to a place of peace having made that decision, or realize that it was the wrong decision and now it's time to shift gears?
Did you witness that? Did you see people doing it, like your friends or anyone, like colleagues that they went involved in it?
100%. And I work with people on a regular basis, you know, as a physical therapist, and in the space of like integrated medicine, meaning like when someone comes to see me, if they have neck pain, for instance, or if they hurt their shoulder, I'm not just looking at the anatomy of what's going on in the joint or in that person's body. It's like, let's look at the whole picture. Let's figure out what's going on with that person as a whole, and how are their systems, like how's their mental health? What are they eating? Are they even sleeping? Are the relationships? Like I had a conversation with someone the other day, and, you know, they're coming to see me for their back, but when we were going down the inventory of their health,
just
overall, they have a family member who has a substance abuse problem that happens to be a very close family member. And now they're having to navigate this person living with them temporarily, and then how to account for this chaos that's in their life temporarily. But this person is someone who they love that has a substance abuse problem. And that's a big part of their stressors. And then their back hurts, right?
And that's a terrible thing. I mean, I don't have any back pain, knock on wood, just yet, but I know it's a terrible thing to have. But do you feel, so did you always wanted to be part of physical therapy? I mean, we were a very, I mean, obviously you're older than I am, but you were always athletic, and then I saw that, and then I grew up athletic. So did you?
I, you know, for a long time, so growing up in like sports, and having like, not necessarily having role models per se, but like first generation coming to the US, and then looking at like my mom cleaned houses for a living, and she was a brilliant woman, but just didn't have the opportunities. The opportunities. I mean, her highest level of like schooling was 8th grade. And my dad's highest level of schooling was 2nd grade. And he wasn't really around. So it was just like, I grew up with a mom that did the best she could. She could read and write. And then when she came to this country, didn't speak English. So the best she could do was clean houses. But what was interesting is she worked for a very wealthy family. And this family kind of basically saw our potential. And the mom whom she was working for realized that like school came pretty easily to me, and she was like, you know, you should put Ada in a more challenging environment, put her in a better school. And we were able to find a magnet program.
How old were you at this time?
This was So I was in 3rd grade and they were looking to skip me a grade. So I was going to this school called Tucker Elementary in like the heart of
Tucker.
Yes.
Guys, Tucker was not a great school.
This is in the hood, Coconut Grove in Miami. I mean,
I was scared of kids from Tucker.
you should be, because I remember, I got punched when I was in 3rd grade because this girl's like, who are you coming?
You didn't punch her back?
I didn't no. So that's a whole other story, girl, but not to dive too much into it. I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't. And I'd never really been bullied. But I was always the new girl in school. So I knew that I was a lot of people's topic of conversation because I was a new kid on the block.
Right.
And this is now, so I think I went to a new school when I was in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, summer of 2nd grade. So now we're in 3rd grade. I've already gone to 4 different schools, right? And then I get to the school and all I wanted was to make a friend. So it was easy to play with the boys and the boys weren't dramatic. So most of my friends were the guys.
Yeah.
But the girls didn't like that for some strange reason. And
already in 3rd grade?
3rd grade, girl.
That's
3rd
crazy.
grade. And then the teacher was also my friend in my eyes. So I was teacher's pet. It's like whatever I needed to do to have someone like me that was like my girl.
Or understood you also. I feel like that's another layer of it, because I feel like it's crazy that you say that even in 3rd grade, the girls were already, I mean, obviously this is in the past, but as you hear it right now, I feel like 3rd grade girls, that's crazy. Even women to this day, they don't like you because you're doing a certain thing. Right. That's also crazy.
Right.
And I, for one, can relate to you that I was also transferring school to school in elementary. But the difference, that's why I asked you, didn't punch her back, because it's so second nature to me to hit someone back.
No, I did not punch her back.
I got suspended in elementary because my cousin, I see my big old cousin who's like a brother, he's getting bullied or someone's doing something to him. And I had an umbrella. So in their words, in their eyes, they saw that this is a weapon, and I'm just coming after this kid. And I said, "What? Goodness. Go away from Daryl. I love him."
I didn't know that story.
You didn't know that story?
With an umbrella?
Yeah, I got suspended.
Oh, jeez, girl.
My mom got called in, and then my mom, she had my back. Of course, thank you, mother. She said, "Well, why are you letting other kids bully other kids? If my daughter's going to see that, she's going to stand up for her family member, of course. So go back to these children. What are they doing?"
Exactly. Yes. So this particular student, she, I think that she must have had some behavioral stuff going on, because that's just not normal
Probably.
in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And, you got to remember that the context of how these kids are, this is poverty. The area has like drug dealers, you have, domestic violence, the whole thing. So I'm sure there's probably a type of neglect going on.
Yeah.
But I remember there was an assembly, and I was I think the only 3rd grader who had principal's honor roll.
Really?
Which says something about the school,
No,
right?
of course.
And so here I am getting straight A's, and then they brought me on stage, which was so embarrassing, and I got a gift card for like $10 for ice cream for a Publix.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, all right, well, thank you. I didn't need to.
But you were embarrassed because you had to be called up on stage?
Yes, because I was the only one that received this honor, right?
Oh, and you saw it as an embarrassing thing rather than like, oh, how cool.
Let's celebrate. Correct.
Yeah,
yes. No, I was embarrassed. And so then we go to the bathroom, and she comes into the bathroom. I think I'm washing my hands at this point, and she comes in with 2 other girls next to her. So it's like a little posse of them.
Yeah.
And then she comes up to me and starts like putting her pointer finger in my forehead. And it's like, oh, who do you think you are coming into the school? You think you run the school?
Oh, heck no.
3rd grade.
Yeah, no.
Are we in 8th? I mean, I was 8 years old, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm looking at her, and she's physically touching me. I was like, you need to stop. And she's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Kept poking me.
Just kidding.
Don't. So she's pushing me into the corner, and I'm like backing up. I'm like, oh my God, my heart is racing. My finger, your hands start getting like
you were
sweaty.
Alone too.
I'm alone. Her 2 other friends are there. And then the next thing I know, I was like, you're getting too close. You're getting too close. I'm like, you need to back up. And so she's like, what are you going to do? And so then I did push her.
Good job, Anna. Good job.
At this point, she probably
didn't hit her, but she pushed her.
I pushed
Stand your ground.
Yes. And then she's like, what, bitch? And she punched me in the chest.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh. And then I think I hyperventilated. I'm like, breathing like this. I go outside. I think I ran outside. And so my teacher is like, I'm trying to speak, but she knocked the wind out of me.
Of course, yeah.
Or a panic attack. I don't know which one.
We're in 3rd grade here.
We're in 3rd grade. I'm trying to analyze. And so the girl comes out, and the teacher's like, what did you do to her? And I was like, she hit me. We go to the principal's office. This is so messed up. We go to the principal's office, and here I am, this little like goody two shoes wannabe, like telling the principal what to do. I was like, you need to suspend her because she touched me.
You said this in third grade?
In third grade.
You said you need to suspend her.
Yes, I sure did. And he didn't listen to me. And then you know what he did? We go back to class. I'm like, she's going to come after me again. I knew it. And then I think it was maybe a few days later, maybe 3 days, I'm walking on my merry way with my little backpack to, it's like school had just ended. So I'm walking to the bus area to get picked up. And this girl comes up behind me, punches me in the back. I drop to my knees. Again.
Anna's getting beat up out here.
I'm like, who punches somebody in the back? And of course she ran away. So
Coward.
My mom from the beginning was like, this young lady needs to be suspended because of what she did. And the second incident happened. And then finally they suspend the child. And really it was just like, so it was an easy decision to leave the school.
Yeah.
Because they were like, well, let's skip her a grade because I was doing so well. And in a way, like the school was like too easy for me. But then I transferred to Sunset Elementary, which is in a predominantly wealthy area.
Yeah.
This is like an international studies program, which is kind of like the equivalent of international baccalaureate, which is like, it's kind of like super honors in a way. It's like honors classes. But then by the time you're done with school and high school, you basically have 2 years into college. And most of the kids that are in this program are going to Ivy Leagues, full ride.
So at what age are you at this point?
So now I'm going into fourth grade. So I am turning 9.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then, so what clicked for you as far as you went on through the years and you're going through this education? Because you are, I mean, we're smart in the family, but you are definitely one of the smartest when it comes to book level, like study, like academically.
I was definitely very dedicated. And early on, they're like, oh yeah, like there's a gifted part that, I took the test and all of that. But I think that I just loved it, and really it was an escape for me. Honestly, it was because the home environment was so dysfunctional. It was very easy for me to dive into school. I happened to be good at it. I felt validated. I felt seen, and I loved it. I really enjoyed learning. And so fast forward, in high school, I think I had an opportunity I was thinking like engineering or
you were
doing architect. Mm-hmm. And
you never said that to me. Cool.
They had a program that was, I think it was like Boss for a Day, and you can pick what career you wanted, and you got to spend the day with these people.
This is in Coral Gables.
This is in Gables. Yeah.
They never did this for us.
Well, you weren't in IS, or you weren't.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry, girl, you're not in those level of courses. Oh, you're right.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're right. I didn't even realize.
So I remember
I just never even heard of that. Right. Like even with those kids being in, like I never heard that was a thing in school.
Right. It should be though.
It should be. What the heck?
So I went and I spent the day it was an architect engineering firm. And I spent the whole day with them. I got to hang out with the architect and I got to hang out with the engineers. And they were like, I felt like these were my people.
Of course, yeah.
However, he was showing me all this data on the computer. And then we went like on site, which is basically out in like the streets. And they were showing me like, I think we were going over, they were rebuilding new roads and talking about all these things in like architectural engineering and civil engineering. To me, it was so fascinating that like all the behind the scenes, and I happen to be good at math too.
Not me.
But then I was like, when he was like, what did he tell me? The engineer was like, do you like computers? I was like, I love computers. And he's like, but can you see yourself sitting in one most of the day?
Yeah.
Like really like the nitty gritty when it came to the job. Because every job has something
pros and cons.
And then the highlights of it, and then the not so great days. And that immediately was kind of like a turnoff for me. I was like, oh, I kind of need to move. Like I felt like I have a lot of energy, and my mind.
Your athletic background and time in high school, you were doing what? Soccer, track, or cheerleading, or all three?
All three. I know. I think about that, and
that's exhausting.
Yeah, I loved it though, and it wasn't exhausting to me. I feel like I have a lot of energy, and some people just are born in a way that like. Some people are artists. Some people love to play music, and to me, it was like movement is such a big part of expressing myself.
Yeah. And
it gives me energy, and it is something that I love. So I needed to move though. The sitting was like, I cannot see myself sitting in a cubicle. Like, so right off the bat, engineering, architect was like sitting. To me, it was like, yes, you are out on the field, but I just...
and the money didn't matter to you at that point because you knew, I think, did you know that as far as like the engineering route, they made more money compared to the others?
Yes, I did, but it wasn't the only driving factor.
Okay.
So when I got to college, I I didn't really state a major. I think I was like biology.
Undecided? Or you were
I was biology.
okay.
I knew I was like, I think I first kind of went the pre-med route, and I was like, all right, I think I'm going to go to med school. But it was very scary. And even going to college, like everything was so new to me because we just didn't have anybody in our family to say, hey, you know what, Ada, you should apply to an Ivy League school.
Right.
You should think about these things. Like to me, it was just like, I don't have money to do this. How am I going to afford this? Like, I don't want to have a ton of debt, you know? And I may have had, I think one of the hardest things for me, and still to reconcile now, I'm a lot better with it, but is really not having the ability to like push myself the way I could have academically. Because
you're saying you wanted to push yourself more?
Correct. Like I didn't apply to an Ivy League school. I didn't push myself in high school. Like my mom didn't, like she knew.
Yeah, because what she doesn't know, she doesn't know, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like, and I get it, right? Grandma, love you too, but you guys are the first.
Yeah, to her, and she told me her dream was for us to go to Coral Gables Senior High because it was a better school in a good community, in a better community, and for us to graduate from high school. That was my mother's dream.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So her dream was realized, but that wasn't my dream.
Right, because you can go for more.
Correct, and I think that coming as an immigrant, you know, to this country and then seeing like what's available given the resources that we had, she did the best she could with the resources that she had. And Absolutely. Then I did the best I could as well. And Ivy League was just not, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have a worse life because I didn't go to an Ivy League school. But I think that in looking back, I feel like I had the potential, but because I didn't have the guidance, it's just one of those
situations.
You
had to figure it out on your own in a way, or you would have to trust the people who either A, is going through that same process with you, or B, you would have to trust other mentors.
Yeah.
And I was from school.
And I was even like my own guidance counselor. Like I went to the guidance counselor and I was like, yeah, no, I don't agree with what you have to say. Very
good. You should challenge people. And as I'm getting older, like there's going to be people in those roles, even doctors that sure, you're good at what you do, but maybe I think sometimes you can get a little challenged too.
Right. But I feel that it's important to have another adult that it's like, hey, let's take a look at this. And I really just relied on myself.
What made you decide pre-med?
Well, I wanted to find a career where I gave back to humanity and did something that allowed me to help. That was like my first thing. I want to have a career that helps. I like people. I like hanging out with people.
You do.
And
you're really
talking
good
to
at
people.
It.
I like learning about them. So that was a very easy decision. But then I didn't know what field or subcategory within medicine or specialty.
Yeah.
So I started just interviewing people, and I went to go do community service and worked in hospitals and volunteered and spoke to doctors, spoke to different physicians.
But we are now at UCF. I mean, not UCF, sorry.
FSU.
That's my thing.
Yes.
Sorry. You're FSU.
I'm FSU. Yes. But when I was in high school, I was a candy striper. So candy striper, and they were called candy stripers because you wear these hideous little garments when you volunteer at the hospital. So my best friend Lily and I were both candy stripers, and we helped out in Coral Gables Hospital. And we were basically with the dietitian team. So we went to different patient rooms and we asked them like, hey, what are you going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And we had the menu and we just kind of took their order. Okay. But what was cool is stepping into the hospital, like really seeing patients and talking to them. And I have a vivid memory of this one lady who was probably in her 70s. She was tied to the bed.
Tied?
Poor thing. Well, she probably had Alzheimer's now that
now that you understand the world.
Yeah, but here I am, I think I was probably 16 or 17, and Lily and I walk in, and this woman's speaking Spanish.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, hola, which is hello in Spanish. Yeah. And we're like, hello, we're Lily and Ada, and we're here to take your order. But she knows
she's tied up. Or no, she doesn't.
She knows she's tied up, but she's annoyed that she's tied up.
Okay.
Let's go. So I'm like kind of right next to her in her bed, so she can grab me. This is how close I am.
Right.
And she grabs my arm as I'm, and she's like, you know what I want to eat? This is all in Spanish. She's like, yo quiero mierda.
Oh, no.
Which is basically crap in Spanish. I'm looking at crap. She's like, I want it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, no. But did you get scared when she grabbed you?
Of course. I'm like, she's crazy. Yeah. I'm like, she's going to bite me. I'm like, why is this woman wrapped up? And, obviously they were restraining her because she was violent or maybe she was out of control. I don't know. I just
as a 16-year-old, it's scary. You don't know what can happen.
Yeah. But it was also, I remember talking to my friend Lily, and it's just like, do we ever want to work in a hospital? I was like, ooh, I don't think hospitals are for me.
Yeah.
So already these kind of like small experiences kind of left these imprints.
Yeah, good.
And it was great, but it was also like, I still want to pursue, but in what capacity? So started interviewing different doctors, and then, you know, what really kind of deterred me were two things. Well, one, I wanted to pursue medicine because A, I want to get back. Two, if I'm really honest with myself, there was a part of me that felt less than. And I felt like if my mother, you know, crossed the border, if we crossed the border and we didn't die and she goes through all this hardship, like, this is in a way of me honoring her and being proud. Like, I have to become a doctor. And everybody from when I was little would always call me like little brain. You know, like they expected me to go
little
far.
brain. Why little brain? If
Well,
you have
like
a big
cerebrito.
Oh, okay,
it's
okay,
like,
okay.
it's translated to little brain, but it's like someone who, you know, who's smart.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this is my identity and this is what I need to do. I have to have some form of doctorate. That's the highest level of education. So I needed to go that route. And then I felt a little bit of pressure.
I was going to ask, because that's a lot to put also on because you're a teenager, but if you feel like you felt that way since back in Tucker, like that's a lot of pressure that you feel like you need to prove that like someone in the family needs to show that status. And exactly, for generational wealth as well.
Correct. There's that, and there's, in a way, there's an honor. It was like, I felt like I owed it to my mother because she worked so hard. Like, this is the least I could do is to make her proud. Right. So there was that part. And then, yes, having been raised in a household where it's like, there were times extreme poverty, right? Where we were starving, where we're eating out of like tuna cans, and it was like rice and beans one more time, and every other rice that you can think of, rice with, try rice with eggs, rice with yummy. Ketchup. Let's put a little bit of butter and sugar on a piece of bread. You know, like these were things that at times, thank God for EBT and food stamps, because that's all my mother could afford, you know? And so I was like, I will never, ever be in this situation again if I could ever help it. So I felt like I wanted to be able to have a certain sense of financial freedom. And yes, I wanted to pursue medicine because there is more money to be made than, you know, other professions. And I felt like I didn't want to have that scarcity mindset. So I wanted to be the furthest away from that. Right. So that was another driving factor.
Right. Aligned with everything that you wanted. And I feel I'm not going through that. I don't want to say never, but I never went through that extent. So I know I heard stories from you. I heard stories from my mom, but I remember moments where our family, we have a young family. So my mom had me at 18 and 17, sorry. Yes. Mother. Right. Just kidding. So she had me at 17. And then at the same time, George also had Emily and Natalie. And grandma was also pregnant around that time. Yes. And
I was 16. I remember I called it the crazy house.
No, we were the crazy house.
It was having children. And then my mother was, I think, 37 or 38. And she got pregnant around the same time that my brother was having his twins. And so all these 3 babies were
in one household.
4 babies, actually, really, because it was you, the twins, and then Brian.
Yeah.
And everybody was born within that 2-year period. And I remember being 16. I was so angry at my mom. I was just like, why? You were done with me. Like, why would you do this to yourself?
Well, she was on birth control. Maybe that's why too. I mean, if she can't.
No, no, but she planned it. She told me.
Oh, she did.
She planned it. Her boyfriend didn't know it. But you know, she was going through her own crisis, seeing her children grow, and eventually, like
she didn't want to be an empty nester.
She did not. It hit her very, very hard. You know, depression was very prevalent in our family, and something that, again, in her case, like I think I had it bad. Like, her situation was extreme poverty in a third world country, right? You know, and going through abuse and all sorts of other things, you know. So I think that there was a fear of being alone for her, and you know, this is when she realized that, like, it was better for her to have bad love than no love at all. Right. And making decisions to have children, even though it may not have been the wisest thing for her, was something that she felt she needed to do.
Yeah, but she has no undeniable love for all of you guys, all of us. Really.
Oh, for sure.
She loves us so much.
She is the matriarch in our family, you know, and I think she was such a pioneer for all of us to be where we are, and to give us at least the stepping stones to then for us to choose, okay, what do we want to do with our lives? And if it wasn't for her hard work and her vision, our family wouldn't be here.
No, yeah, I wouldn't be born.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Grandma, for bringing us over here.
Yes.
I'm sure I know you read like a short article, or right?
So
was it an article?
I wrote a short story
about that, right?
Which it's right now it's going through the publishing phase, but it's an anthology of what's called the Nicaraguan diaspora, which are stories of people that got dispersed during the Sandinista revolution in the 80s. And it was a very tumultuous time in Nicaragua, and so many people left the country.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a short story about our journey from Nicaragua to Miami.
Look at you and Louis being writers.
Yes. That was inspired by him, actually. When he wrote his book, I was like, this is a story that needs to be told. And my inspiration was actually you girls. So you, Marilyn, Natalie and Emily, and then of course my daughter, Sophia.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you. You're
welcome. And then, so now you saw that obviously 16, and now we're moving forward, and you're still in the pre-med route, but you wanted to go ahead and decide now we're in.
So yes. So now I'm in college. I first semester did really well. I took a chemistry class. So I think it was spring of my sophomore year, or early on, first 2 years in undergrad. And I think my professor, I think half the class failed. So this is FSU, right? There's like 300
Why'd you pick
people.
FSU?
Well, I went to visit UF. UF was actually my first choice, but I didn't like Gainesville.
Why?
It was too country for me. There was something
she
about
said, I don't want those boots.
Well, I mean, Tallahassee's even more country because it's on the panhandle.
Goodness.
And the racism I experienced was just next level.
Did?
There. I sure did.
What?
Yes.
Never told me.
Yes. But Tallahassee actually seemed a little bit more city for me than Gainesville at the time. And so I honestly, like, the tour, the campus tour came when I was in high school. We were playing soccer tournaments, and we went to UF for a soccer tournament and then went to FSU for another soccer tournament. And I loved Tallahassee. So I was like, you know what, this is a place for me. And I applied. Thank God I got a full ride. And umming. Yes. And yeah, but going back to your original question with like the how did I find physical therapy? So after I, took this chemistry class, I think I got a 90 in the class, or an 89. I can't remember. And I studied hard for that class. The professor had a really thick accent. And I remember, I got a B. And this was my first B because I actually tried. And in high school, I didn't really try very hard, but I told myself in college, no, I have to try. I'm getting paid to go to school. This is no messing around.
And I feel like in your brain, in a way, like it's going to switch up, where in high school, obviously, when we go through college and we're done, we want to think back into our high school moment, because that could have been our ground to like shift our future. Yeah. And then once we're in college, like we're a lot more serious and mature, that we want to actually put in the work.
Yes. And I think that I realized I never really tried in school, which was even more like how smart am I really, you know?
Yeah.
So here I am trying. I get a B in this class, and I was just like, wow, this is me trying. And my first thought was like, I don't want to be a B doctor.
Yeah, no.
I don't belong in med school if I get a B in chemistry. And I know that there were like the curriculum itself, like that was just like Chem 1. I needed to take Chem 2, Organic 1, Organic 2, like all these really hard classes. And which, by the way, I ended up getting an A in Organic, come to think of it now. But in that moment, I told myself, like, I'm not cut out for med school. And I decided to shift gears because I didn't think I was going to do well in med school, which I wish I would have kept the route. But again, it's one of those things, coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be. It's fine. And then it was like, what else am I going to do? So then I started really kind of just, again, went back to just going to different hospitals, interviewing people, recreational therapy, speech therapy, talked to different professionals. And then I met a physical therapist that was working out of FSU in the gym. And I was like, well, what do you do? Because she was wearing this white lab coat. And I was like, well, she's not a personal trainer. And there's some medicine involved there. I don't know. And then she explained to me what physical therapy was. And my first thought of physical therapy was traumatic brain injury. We had and this was because we had a uncle when I was 15 who got shot, and he had a brain injury and he passed away. So I was like, oh, do you work?
But what made you think that was PT?
Because my first thought of rehabilitation is people that have brain injuries, so stroke. So I was like, I don't want to work in a hospital. Remember with the whole lady that...
Right.
So my
you
first
don't want
thought was
anyone
like,
grabbing you.
I don't want anybody grabbing me. I don't want to be in the hospital. I don't like the way it smells. I had this trauma from my uncle too that passed away. And then she was like, no, I don't work in a hospital. I work here. She worked in a gym. And she was an orthopedic and sports physical therapist. So then I was like, I think I like this. So then I ended up getting volunteer hours there. And I was like, I really like this place. And I met the physical therapists. They seemed to be joyful, like people. Whereas when I was working in the hospital, meeting other physicians and other people that worked in the hospital setting didn't seem as fulfilled or as joyful. I feel like energy for me was like, I can really meet someone and just right away tell like, authentically, is this person at peace, or are they angry? Is there something bothering them? I feel like it's kind of like it's a little bit of a gift that I have. Yeah. But it can also be sometimes like they may not even know it.
No, of course, if they're not doing the work as far as the emotional intelligence or whatever habits that they have, and they can't outgrow them. Like, you know, who's to say that that's really, are you happy in your job, or are you just not happy in general?
In general, correct. And that's just showing up in your workspace.
Right.
So, yeah, I went ahead and got a job there. I met the physical therapist that worked there. And one guy in particular, Jerry Latimer, I'll never forget him. He was such a one of those people that was such a role model for me. He was an athletic trainer and a physical therapist. And I think I'm in my junior year now. So I was like, oh, for sure, athletic training is my route. So I went and I spoke with him, and he was just like, you know, you're already a junior. For you to, you know, start the athletic training degree now, he's like, you might as well just get your pre-physical therapy credits and then, or your prerequisites, and then go to PT school. And by the time I was done with PT school, I would just be getting my undergraduate in athletic training. So I just decided to go the PT route.
So it worked in your favor.
Oh, it totally did.
Oh, good.
And he, you know, so even though I'm not an athletic trainer, I'm a physical therapist that specializes in sports and orthopedics. But athletic training was definitely like the route that I wanted to take.
And again, it linked up so well because your love for athletic stuff. Because again, I don't want to say we, it really wasn't the family, but whenever we were with you and Lewis, we would just do those 5Ks even at 10 and 11 years old. Like, let's wake up and we're in California. Let's run this 5K. Right. And to me, I never saw it as a burden because maybe as a kid, like you want to do like physical activity.
Right. You want to play.
You want to play. And of course we were healthy enough to do it. But it was so fun to do such a, how can I word it? It was a fun thing to come out with you and for you guys to be examples for us of healthy lifestyles, right? Yes. And it trickled down for us also as we grew up, because when we got into high school, like we ended up doing track. I did ROTC, but the physical ability in that I did exhibition. So that's a lot of spinning rifles, and that's a lot of shoulder work and making sure core strength. So we're like solid. Right. But it worked out so well. I'm happy that we ended up getting that exposure, and you doing PT. Like we have a PT in the family, so like if we ever have any questions, like we're feeling this, Ada, like what do we do? Yes,
and I love that. You know, I think it's so cool that we each have our gifts and our talents. You know, and that's something that it's something not only that I can help people with, but it helps me keep me accountable too. Because working out sometimes can feel like a chore for me. I'd rather go for a walk or a run. But I know how important it is to strength train. I know how important it is to like get yourself out of your comfort zone and to keep your body moving so that you're able to age and have this sustainable strength for like a long period of time.
Especially too, because you saw those people who did not focus on that, and you see the consequences of it. So you're just an advocate for to do this more and more and more. And of course, not to overdo it, because overdoing it can also be a terrible thing. You can get injuries, you can whatever, XYZ, you know more than I do. I'm not PT person. Right. But no, it worked out. And then on top of that, with you being in PT, now we're past this, it worked well for you. I'm glad. And you have your business. I feel you don't really see that in a lot of physical therapists owning their own business, or they're more of sharing with another PT, or do you get what I'm saying?
Well, the profession itself has evolved. So when I went to physical therapy school, I was one of the last PTs that graduated with a master's level. And even before that, there were PTs that just had undergraduate degrees. And then eventually the profession was like, no, we need master's level. And then now to become a physical therapist, you have to be an entry-level doctor of physical therapy, which means that in order for you to even consider being a physical therapist, you have to know that you need your undergraduate degree, the prerequisites to get into physical therapy school, and at minimum you're looking about 6 to 7 years of schooling from
additional
like you need your undergraduate degree, however long that takes you, with 3 to 4 years, and then 3 years of physical therapy school.
You have to love school to do this. You have to love school, or you have to, again, like how you said, you have to love the career path that you're choosing.
Yes. And I think that there is and I forgot to mention this, which is a super vital part, when I was in kind of my discovery of what's next for me. I have a very close relationship with God, and I remember praying and asking, like, okay, God, like, what is my calling? What is my purpose? What do you want me to do? Like, you know my personality, you know my gifts and talents, you know what's ahead, and having the faith. And I remember vividly where God was like, this is what's next for you. And I remember meeting the first physical therapist, and then talking to Jerry, my mentor, and then getting a job, and then everything just lined up. It was like serendipitous, you know, where it's just like this happened and this happened and this happened. I think it's important to kind of notice when life opens up a flow and to follow that flow. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but it was so obvious that that was my track. And then, you know, now being a physical therapist, I think I'm going into my 17th year, which is wild to even say that out loud.
And you look great, girl.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. You look
Thank
great.
you.
If you guys can see us, like, you would think we're sisters.
Right. And I, you know, part of it is genes, but another part is really just the dedication of taking care of myself, you know, and being really mindful of what I eat, what I consume, the things I think, you know, and really just setting that standard for myself, but also being a standard for my patients. You know, I want them to see me and see someone that is not just telling them, hey, this is the things that you can do to be healthy, but also letting them know, like, I've gone through the struggles. Like, I did have issues with, like, I never had an eating disorder that was classified, or I wasn't labeled or diagnosed with an eating disorder. However, I did have issues with overeating, with eating unhealthy, like too much sweets. Like, I remember being 20.
You still love your Oreos.
Girl, you know I love my Oreos. Oreos in the house. For any lovers out there, you know me. But it's not healthy to eat a whole row at night, you know. It's not good. And I did that, you know. And I
sometimes when you come over, you want to look at my pantry to see what I have.
Literally asked Tony when I came in, I'm like, Tony, do you have any Oreos? And he looks at me like, no. I'm like, you have to have something. And
we have other snacks.
You had a vanilla wafer. So, but it was so funny how my brain is like, Marilyn, Oreos, like, you know me. And I think it's, you know, it makes you human. I think it's sometimes when you meet another health professional and you see someone that's lives a healthy lifestyle, you think that they don't struggle with the same things that other people do. And I think that it is not natural for me to just want to get up and go. You know, I have to remind myself, okay, Ada, like, you need to do this, and you have to have somebody hold you accountable. And like, that's why I hire coaches, you know, and I also make it a point to go to the doctor, get my checkups, see how my blood work is doing, look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, like, where am I doing well, and where can I grow in areas of like my health pillars? So
what would you recommend the strategies would be best for the people who are starting, like, clean slate, right? What would you recommend for them to do moving forward?
Yeah. So being in the category of mindset, right? So I'm not a mental health counselor, just want to put that out there. And if you feel like you are struggling with what you think may be a mental health issue, then speaking to a medical professional, just as your like primary care specialist or therapist, primary care doctor, sorry.
There you go.
Would be the first step. But when people come to see me, for instance, you know, and they have like whatever pain, or maybe they don't have pain, but they just want to optimize their life, right? So let's say you don't have any injuries, but you're like, okay, I just want to feel better in my body, in my mind. I give them 3 things to think about. And the first thing is like, all right, let's just kind of look at, like, talk about your mind from like a neutral observer standpoint, right? Where if we're kind of looking at a painting, like you would say, oh, that's a little bit on the yellow side, or what do I notice over here on this line? Just kind of like observing it without being emotionally attached to what you're about to say. Because sometimes I feel like some people don't give themselves the grace to kind of be compassionate about what they're feeling. Or like, let's say you have a short fuse and you're like, oh, I always get mad about this situation. Or whenever somebody cuts me off in the road, I can't help but get so angry, you know? And they get mad at the fact that they're mad. Yeah. So the first step is just kind of like, let's look at this as a neutral observer and not be so attached to what's going on, but really like what is going on, and have the awareness first. And then I like to give people 3 things to think about. So one would be like, are you someone who's patient or impatient, like by nature? The majority of people say that they're impatient. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's
welcome
like,
to the club.
We want this done yesterday. And I think that that's a product of our society. Like you look at social media, you look at, just in general, like we don't have the patience to sit with ourselves. And sometimes things aren't meant to be fixed. They're just meant to be observed in that moment, and you have to allow time to pass. So patient versus impatient, and you can only change what you're aware of. So having the awareness of, I have this situation right now, and then why am I being so impatient about it? Can I look at the situation in the same way and practice being patient? So that's my first question. The second thing is presence. Are you where your feet are? Like if I say that, right, can you feel your feet on the ground? Like you're here right now knowing that. Or does your mind tend to go into the past or into the future, right? So into the past from a space that's not so productive would be like regretting, wishing things were different, and not
you don't want to dwell in the past, right?
Correct. You don't want to dwell in the past, and you want to come from a place of acceptance. Like everything has already passed. What's past is done, and then are you holding on to those stories? Are they serving you, or are they not serving you, right? And if something's not serving you, we need to stop coming back to that same like record and stop dwelling there, like you said.
Right.
And then the future part is sometimes the future is great to look at, to plan for, but if you're living there, right, if your mind is just constantly on to the next thing, you totally miss your life because you're just focusing on what's coming up ahead, or you have anxiety about what's coming up, like, or you're so worried about the next thing. So let's not do that. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Is really be where your feet are and take action where you are in the direction that you want to create your life.
Yeah.
And then the third thing would be, so we talked about patience, we talked about presence, and then optimism. So being positive.
That's tough.
Happy people typically have a better life.
I don't doubt that, but that's very, very tough in this sense. So how would you counter argue that then for people who are optimistic versus, I don't want to say pessimistic, but more realistic?
Well, you could be realistic or you could be cynical, right? Where you think like you just don't see the good, right? Realism, yes, you can be realistic and know that certain situations happen by the nature of the situation, right? Like you're going to be stuck in traffic and you're not going to be so happy about being stuck in traffic, but you can have a more optimistic view and see it as an opportunity to maybe listen to a podcast or practice breathing or just kind of contemplate on like, is this where you want to be? You are choosing to be in traffic based on the decisions that you've made in your life. And is this supporting you? Right. You know, like Louis, I think he shared a story in one of your podcasts about being in Puerto Rico and how he hated being in traffic. And he realized in that moment that he wanted to join the military, right? So sometimes I think that situations are there to give us like some kind of nudge towards like, are we truly at peace with where we want to be, or is this signal trying to tell me something else? Right.
And then have that self-realization of, if you don't fix it now or you don't work on it now, when you're older, that blood pressure is going to be high. You're going to have a lot of conflict your way
in your body,
everything. You're gonna lose sleep, you're gonna pop a blood vessel, and headaches
are to illness
nonstop.
And disease. So our decisions that we make now are driving the life that we want to live or the life that we don't want to live. So being really intentional about that is so important.
Oh, very well. You heard it from here, guys. She's not into she doesn't have that title of the mental health, blah, 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 but she has the PT. She's been around lots of doctors. She knows what she's talking about. And
I will tell you too, like a lot of my clients are doctors. So it's interesting to work with. So I work with a lot of high performers. So I worked with like professional athletes to physicians to entrepreneurs, kids that are en route to like play in college, you know? So, And I think one of the things that I love about working with athletes and the sports medicine realm is that their personality is different from just someone that, let's say, their goal is simply just to, I don't know, be able to wake up in the morning and not have any pain in their shoulder, versus the mountaineer that wants to climb like go on 3 expeditions, right? Very different personality types. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, but it's just a matter of like, you're going to have a different coach for the person that wants to climb 3 mountains versus the person that just wants to like move their shoulder,
of course,
every which way, but they're not really interested in playing any sport.
Right,
you know?
right.
And I think that you have to be honest with who you are, like what are your traits, what do you enjoy doing, what do you see yourself doing, and then being able to be of service to that individual. And for me, because of the clientele that I have, it pushes me to operate at a certain level so that I can provide that service for those people.
No, and you do a great job. A lot of people talk highly about you, and even people who don't see you at your practice, like they speak highly of you, and they've told me like, wow, you should be so blessed. And I was like, I am, thank you. You don't have to tell me. I already know. Thank you very much. Who do you think is happy at the end of the day? I know. No, but it worked out well. You have a successful practice. Like I have a lot of friends who are in PT route, and I see them going through their journey. I think that looks tragic, but they're having the time. Yeah, I would not want to, because I PT school. No, or? Just me. I just wouldn't do that. To me, in my perspective, it looks tragic, but to them, they're
you're so funny. Tragic. What a word. But I teach.
But they're happy to do it. Don't get me wrong. That's the beauty of us having different personalities. Like you guys go into the realm that you want to go into. I'll go in mine, and I love hearing stories.
I love. Yesterday I went to go visit Marilyn at Universal Studios. Oh my gosh, Univision. But really seeing you in front of that console, and I don't know if you guys have seen Marilyn's what she actually does in her work as a. What's your title? You basically do the job of.
It's just directing. Yeah, just keep it that way. Yeah.
And so on the technical side of being able to run a show, right, for the news, and seeing you do all of that, like a part of me, like I got a little anxious because I was like, you are looking at. I don't know how many screens we're in front of. At least 10.
We have. At least 10, and then you have the big monitor screens that are like having little miniature screens on them.
Yeah, so there's this noise happening, right? You have to speak. You're directing so many things, and that to me was so overwhelming. Just watching you, I was so happy.
Oh yeah, it can
kind of
be
seeing you in it, but it's something that I wouldn't want to do.
No,
so I'm grateful for people like you.
I'll be here for the TV shows, the movies, and the news. No worries. Oh, but no, it was a lot of fun having you guys watch me, because I get it. And Tony's the same way, that he has his work, which is like project management, and I can't do that. I'm, like I said, I'm terrible with numbers. I'm terrible with trying to figure out what works best, negotiating. I'm terrible. But with something with directing, how the best way I can explain it to other people is like, if you're in front of the TV or whatever, and there's different scenes coming on for us as the directors, that's us painting a picture. Right. So we have all of our essentials, but like, how do we want it to look for the people to view it?
And you have such a gift, Marilyn, with being able to storytell.
Oh, thanks.
And being able to orchestrate all of that and be able to then present it in a way that is appealing to the viewer.
I hope so. I hope it continues, or if not, I keep getting better. But I'm very happy you got to see it. This is your hard work, girl. I'm your result. Shed a tear.
Crying. You're crying. I'm not crying.
No, I'm so happy I got to have you on. Like I also told Lewis, I wanted my friends and family first as I'm going through this. Like I wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm happy that I'm starting to do it.
I'm so excited that you're doing this. It's so natural, and it really is. You have a way. It's so easy to speak to you.
Yeah.
And for you to lay the context of like just asking certain questions, but then being able to just be comfortable around you and to let the conversation simply flow.
I'm glad. So what we're going to do, girl, is we're going to play a game.
Okay.
This game is called a 5-second guess game.
Okay.
I'm changing up the title every single time.
Okay.
It doesn't have one, but 5-second guess game. So you have 5 seconds, and I'm going to tell you to name 3 things.
Okay.
Alrighty?
Okay.
So here we go. In 5 seconds, name 3 different types of Oreos.
Oh,
1,
regular
2,
stuff, double
3,
stuffed, and mint.
4. And that's why you love Oreos. You know what you're getting. You know what I asked it? I complete. You like mint Oreos?
They're so good.
Ew.
Stop.
Ew. That's something
Don't
new.
knock it till you've tried it.
I
And the
tried it.
double stuffed. Thank
Ew.
you.
Okay,
With
great.
milk. Yes.
I love that you love mint Oreos. They need to be bought.
Yes.
All right, next one.
Again. Okay.
Yes, next
my
one.
heart is racing. Go. I'm ready
Here
for
we
this.
go.
Let's go.
In 5 seconds, name 3 of your siblings. 1,
Penny,
2,
George,
3,
and Brian.
4. Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, you have more than 3 siblings. That's why I asked.
Oh yeah, I do. I forgot about that. Well, those are my half siblings.
But
They
still,
are
they're
still my
siblings.
siblings, but I don't talk to them often. Right.
All right, here we go. In 5 seconds, name 3 arm muscles.
Arm
1,
muscles, brachialis,
2,
brachioradialis,
3,
and
4.
supinator.
Okay, wow. That sounded all like gibberish to me. So I don't even know if you're right or wrong.
I know I'm right.
But the PT listeners will know if you're right or wrong.
I was an anatomy professor for 5 years, girl. I got it right.
Okay, I'm glad you got it right. That'd be embarrassing if you didn't get it right.
It would be so embarrassing. It would be.
No, I'm so happy I got you on. If there's anything that you want to leave behind for the people that are going through the path that you went through, what would it be?
Okay.
Because side note, she also teaches at Nova, so
Yes.
she's there with the students.
Yes. I think that, at this juncture in my life, so I'm 42, I'm married, I have a husband, I have a practice. I claim you as a daughter as well. Your mother would not be so happy about that, but you have your mother and then you have me. I'm like side mom. I think that what drives me is purpose and knowing that I have a calling as well. And when we do something that's a higher calling, there is more to just the superficial part of how much money are you making? What's your day to day? Like, are you really leaving an impact in people's lives? And I can say honestly that where I am now, the life that I have, although some days are really hard, I love what I do, and people come to see me. They know they're not just getting a regular physical therapist that's just doing their job to get paid, right? I see them for who they are. I'm invested in their lives. They know that I am an advocate for their health. They know that I'm going to challenge them to be better because that's what they've hired me for.
Exactly. Yes.
But it's also my calling, and I feel so blessed when I meet someone. Like, I know that that's orchestrated by a higher power. And I think that when life throws curveballs at you, because it will, it's coming back to that. What's my purpose? What is life really about? And taking a moment to just kind of step back and really focus on what really matters. And what really matters to one person may not matter to someone else. So being authentically you and finding out what drives you, what brings you joy, what's sacred to you is so important, because sometimes I've been in situations where the time has passed where I should be there no longer, whether it's relationships, jobs.
So knowing when to walk away.
Knowing when to walk away, a good question. And I was listening to this. I'm not sure who said it, but it was, is it sacred? Is it still sacred for you? And I think that sometimes when we see certain relationships, like, oh, what do you mean this job is sacred? Like, for me, like, wherever I go, I feel like I bring the presence of God, and God tells me, okay, this is where I want you. And I know that that's valid because I have peace in my heart. I feel joy when I'm there. And if that feeling is no longer there and you're fighting that and like, I should be here, or I'm afraid to take that leap of faith to go somewhere else, it's to really be honest with yourself. And you only have one life, it's like, is this sacred for me? And I think that if we keep that at the center, and you're combining that with your purpose, then you're going to have meaning in your life, and it's just going to be so much richer. You're going to enjoy it. And whether the money comes or not, and I know it's not easy to say, because I've been on both ends, where sometimes I've had a month where I'm like, how am I going to pay rent? Not in my current situation, but just,
like back then.
Right. Yeah, and I've had instances with my job where it's just like it ebbs and flows, because I'm also, I don't take insurance, so it's an even harder division of physical therapy to be in. But now being in it 10 years and having the steady clientele and no longer worrying about that, but now creating, you know, profit, but also providing so much value to my community. You know, it's taken years to build that. I've become a different person. I've grown through all of that, and being able to take the necessary steps to challenge myself, but then also to draw those healthy boundaries and know what's good for me, know when to take my breaks, and be able to continue to give back while still loving myself in the process.
Well, I think
cool
that's
journey.
It is a cool journey. I'm happy I got to see you through. Even I thought maybe I can do PT route, but then I saw I did, and I said, "Oh no, not for me." No, so I hope the people get to hear this and they learn a lot from you. As I mentioned previously, like whoever listens, they should take advantage on whoever's on and take this free resource and reevaluate XYZ. And at the end of the day, it's what you said. It's a very giving job, and it's going to take a lot of energy from you. And or whoever's going through it's going to take a lot of energy from you. I've seen it from a household perspective of what it does to someone. And if you don't love it,
you've got to love it.
Like, you have to, I'm not saying leave, that's your life, but definitely reevaluate, as Ara said.
And it applies to any job too. I think sometimes some people stay there because they've invested so much time, and it's like, you've got to really ask yourself, is this something that is sacred for me still? And if it's not, then it's time to
walk away,
get up and go.
And
that's
say,
okay too.
Peace out, people.
I'm out of here.
Well, Ara, I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too, Marilyn.
Well, as I told Luis, I'm going to tell you que Dios te bendiga.
Oh, thank you. Bendiciones, bendiciones. Blessings, blessings.
Blessings, blessings. Bye,
and to
guys.
all of you listening as well. Blessings to you.